Good evening. This is Jimmy Powers welcoming you to another boxing match sent your way by the Gillette Safety Razor Company. In the ring tonight, it's Carmen Basilio of Syracuse, New York. In the left corner, Gene Fullmer of West Jordan, Utah, a 15-round bout for the NBA Middleweight Championship of the World. Gillette brings you the feature boxing event of the week every Friday night. Such classics as the World Series, World's Invitational Match Game Bowling Championship, Blue and Gray football game, Rose Bowl game, Kentucky Derby, and the All-Star baseball game during the year. This is our way of showing you how much we appreciate your support.
Doctor, if you please. Thank you, Jimmy. Ladies and gentlemen, we of San Francisco, the city by the Golden Gate, extend greetings to you from the famous Cow Palace, where this evening your co-promoters, the San Francisco Boxing Club Incorporated, and Mr. Norman Rothschild, as well as your matchmaker, Mr. Benny Ford, present a series of boxing events for your pleasure. We have several personalities from the world of Vistania here in the ring that we thought possibly you may enjoy meeting. First, may I present to you a young gentleman, one of our own San Franciscans, who has certainly been a credit to boxing, both in and out of the ring. Would you accord a nice San Francisco welcome for the former middleweight champion of the world from San Francisco, Fred Apostoli. Ladies and gentlemen, also in the ring with me at the moment is another young gentleman who at the present time is campaigning, and I may say very successfully, in the light heavyweight division. You will remember him as San Francisco's own former middleweight champion of the world, Carl Bobo Olson. Ladies and gentlemen, not too many years ago, a big bear emerged from the hills of Livermore, California. He went on to become one of our extremely popular champions. And I would like at this time to present the Clown Prince of Vistania, the hard-hitting, colorful former heavyweight champion of the world, Max Baer. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please, for just one moment. It is indeed a pleasure for me to present our next personality to you. And if I were to say that he is one of our popular champions, I think that would have to be the understatement of this or any other year. Because I think that all of you here gathered this evening will agree with me when I say that he is one of the greatest champions in the history of boxing. Would you be kind enough to greet the magician with the gloves, the sensational light heavyweight champion, Archie Moore. Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you that all ringside officials and boxers are under the supervision of and assigned by the California State Athletic Commission, Mr. Jack Urch, Executive Officer. Your ringside officials are timekeeper Dr. Louis Lichtenstein, counting for the knockdowns Mr. Emmett Stevenson, physicians in attendance at ringside the doctors Don Lostretto, Robert Durand, your judges Jack Silver and Fred Botero, your referee Jack Downey. 15 rounds for the middleweight championship of the world, as sanctioned by the NBA, the National Boxing Association. It is my pleasure on my left in the red corner to present to you a young gentleman from West Jordan, Utah, wearing black trunks striped with white, weighing 159 1/2 pounds, the very colorful former popular middleweight champion of the world, Gene Fullmer. And in the blue corner, his equally worldwide opponent. You'll remember him very, very well, ladies and gentlemen. He is from Conestoga and Chittenango, New York. He is wearing white trunks striped with black. He is weighing 156 pounds. The former popular and sensational welterweight and middleweight champion of the world, Carmen Basilio.
Both of you men have received your instructions from the chief inspector. Both of you men have received your instructions from Chief Inspector Willie Ritchie at the Commission office today. I'm not going to go through the instructions again. I want to remind you, though, that when I tell you to break out of your clinches, break clean, don't hit on a break. Shake hands now, and may the better man win.
This fight is scored on the 10-point must system. 10 points for the winner of each round, 9, 8, or less for the loser. If the round is even, 10 points for both men. They're using 8-ounce gloves, no mandatory 8 counts, no 3 knockdown rule. Real rough first round. One minute. Fullmer said he had 3 plans of attack. Be interesting to see if we can decipher. Fullmer scoring very well, really bouncing that glove, especially that right, off Basilio's chin. Now it's Carmen's turn. Ten seconds. That's the end of round 1. Well, this big crowd here tonight really saw a terrific first round. That's what they came to see. The styles are that way. 2 good punchers. 2 former world champions. Carmen Basilio is in the white trunks. Gene Fullmer in the black. You notice Fullmer used to plow forward all the time. Now he's moving backward, jabbing as he goes. He's adopted a sort of an Archie Moore wraparound protection. Boy, the crowd loves this. And then pile it in there. Well, another great round. Look at the crowd applaud. Carmen Basilio, 54-13, 27 knockouts. The former middleweight champion of the world, the ex-welterweight champion, Carmen. Because of his slam-bang, all-put-out performance, he's perhaps the most popular boxer in the world today. When he first won the welterweight title from Tony DeMarco, he promised to be a fighting champ, and he's been all of that regardless of the weight division. Been boxing since he was 14, enlisted in the Marines when he was 17, saw service on Guam and at Pearl Harbor, came home, entered the Syracuse Herald-Journal Golden Gloves. Even after being eliminated an early round, he continued his interest in boxing, turned pro in 48. His ring career thereafter was just so-so. After marrying Kay Simpkins, his career seemed to change overnight. He boxed in Madison Square Garden while on his honeymoon. While his first interest was in farming and onions, he now owns an apple orchard. He's a converted southpaw. Fullmer jabbing, moving, jabbing and moving. Carmen stalking his man, is more of a stationary target himself when Fullmer moves in. One minute. Ten seconds. That's the end of round 3. Fullmer strategy is rather apparent. He's boxing outside, moving in to counter occasionally. He hurt Carmen then. Been very effective. He's changed his style since the last time we saw him. Fullmer has. He's got great legs, the legs of a 6-day bike rider, and he's using them to advantage. Terrific right. 2 rights caught Carmen. Carmen, a stationary target against a moving boy. Another left hook. Fullmer sharp tonight. Fullmer fought himself out of that very neatly. Let's take a look at Fullmer. Marv Jensen, his manager, is first in the ring with Angelo Curley and Billy Newman. They're working over Fullmer now, both men unmarked. Fullmer is a rugged, honest toe-to-toe performer. He's never been in a dull fight. He comes from a farm region in Utah. His father, an ex-boxer, taught him the fundamentals. He, too, is a serviceman, 17 months in Korea. Gene Fullmer, 28 years old, has won 49, lost only 4, scored 21 knockouts, and been knocked out only once himself. His last fight, February the 20th, defeated Wilf Reeves in Madison Square Garden. Age may be a factor. Carmen Basilio is 32. Fullmer is 28. Fullmer had to dry out to make the weight, and he estimates that he now weighs about 163. Carmen said that he expected to put on about 2 pounds since the weigh-in at 10 o'clock this morning. Ideal night for about 62 degrees in San Francisco. Fullmer wraps his arms around himself because a great many, or a great percentage, of Basilio's hooks are to the body. One minute. Ten seconds. Fullmer boxing beautifully. That's the end of round 5. Fullmer seems to wait until after Carmen has thrown a combination, and as Carmen stays low, then Fullmer lashes out and usually scores 1 or 2 shots. Carmen fighting his usual style, pressing forward, carries the battle right to you, 3 minutes of the round, stalking, moving forward, always. Fullmer stays right outside of range most of the time. Real good photography, beautiful close-up. Gives a real flavor to this fight, a terrific fight. That's the bang-bang action you've been watching ever since the start. Look, that crowd yell. Fullmer, very accurate tonight. A great round, and the applause is merited. We got a thriller here going for the NBA Championship of the World. Those are 8-ounce gloves, but most of the weight is up on the wrist, and actually, boxers say there's less padding over the knuckles with these 8-ounce gloves than the other style 6-ounce gloves. You can see a great deal of the weight and the padding is over the wrists. So while it sounds 8-ounce doesn't sound much, they're pretty lethal, or as lethal as 6-ouncers anyway. Generally, Fullmer has been moving away from the left hook. He's been moving clockwise. He wants to be moving if the left does land, so he's moving away from it instead of into it. One minute. This is round 7 of a 15-round bout for the NBA Championship of the World, Cow Palace, in delightfully cool 62-degree San Francisco. Ten seconds. Fullmer always seems to come out with that one last punch after each exchange. Just like that. He pinpoints those shots. Oh, he staggered Basilio. Basilio almost went down. Basilio's hurt. The round is almost over. The round is over. Basilio tried to trade with him and ran smack into a right and left to the head. Fullmer, who had been outboxing him all the way, caught him flush on the chin, and poor Carmen's legs doubled up under him, and he almost sat down facing our camera. Now, working on him now is Mario Spaminato. Angelo Dundee is working very fast there. He's the center man, and Al Silvani. Poor Carmen has been taking quite a punching around here tonight. He has been stalking his man, but his man has been moving away from his left hook. He's willing to concede Carmen a few rights, but Carmen hasn't been scoring very much with the right. Now let's take a look at Fullmer over in his corner. He's got Marv Jensen in there and Angelo Curley and Billy Newman. Neither man is cut. It's been a rattling good fight, a lot of action, and let's see what comes now, because we've got 15 rounds to go. And this is round 8. 9. Excuse me, this is round 9. That near knockdown seems to have infuriated Carmen, because he's glowering and moving forward, trying desperately to nail an elusive target. Fullmer stays just out of range and only moves in when he sees Carmen step back a little or lower his guard. Fullmer is feeling very cocky. He's beginning to wind up now and pitch that right. He feels he's got his man hurt. He's wearing him down. This steady barrage started in round 1. 1 minute to round 9. This may not go the distance. Ten seconds. That's the end of round 9. Poor Carmen, he's been standing there with his chin wide open at times, and all Fullmer has to do is pop that glove on it. Carmen is having trouble getting through Fullmer's gloves. If you notice, Fullmer wraps his gloves around his chin and his arms around his body, and here is a very good close-up as we see his handlers go into action. They feel very confident, of course, as a result of the course of this fight. Marv Jensen, Angelo Curley, and Billy Newman ministrating to him there. Fullmer has found a way, he figures, I don't know whether it's going to work eventually, of thwarting Basilio's hooks to the body and hooks to the chin. And Fullmer has been so far very fortunate in avoiding any direct shots or any great series of direct shots on the chin or the body. Carmen's corner working on him, rubbing his legs, putting ice packs. He has a slight swelling. Neither boy is cut, but there are plenty of bruises and bumps. Seconds are out on the 10-second buzzer. Now we go into the next round of a 15-rounder. It's round 11 coming up. Well, let's take a look at Carmen. You know, sometimes you can tell by the expressions of handlers and a fighter just how the fight is going. Now, Carmen, here's a boy of great heart. He makes every fight. He moves forward all the time. He plows straight ahead as if he were on a railroad track. He comes right at you, and he's the type of fighter you know that you're going to have to carry him out there. He's not going to quit. You can see a few bumps on his face, but there are no cuts. Angelo Dundee sponging him off. These are good, efficient cornermen. 32-year-old Carmen Basilio, veteran of 74 fights. This is his 75th fight. Never been knocked out. Real rugged. But he ran into, oh boy. Ten seconds. Fullmer bleeding from the nose. That's the end of round 12. Carmen Basilio in the white trunks, in case you just tuned in. Gene Fullmer in the black. Both former champions boxing here tonight in the Cow Palace for the NBA Middleweight Championship of the world. 2 rounds to go. Two rounds to go after this round. This is round 13. Well, Fullmer wound up in his corner, a spatter of applause from the crowd. Fullmer, of course, is the underdog. It was obvious at the start of the fight that the majority of the people here were Basilio rooters, although both men are equally popular. There are a group of fans down from Utah, from the Mormon area, to root for Gene Fullmer because he always gives a slam-bang, all-out honest performance. You can also sense, if you just tuned in, from the attitude of a corner, whether it's calm or whether they feel that their plan of attack is working. And this corner looks like a pretty confident corner. At one stage in the fight, after a toe-to-toe exchange, Basilio's knees buckled, and it looked as if he was ready to be knocked out. But when the match resumed, Fullmer went back to his stabbing, moving, boxing attack. The thing to remember that this essentially is a boxing match and points are scored. So it's up to the judges and the viewers to decide who is the better boxer and who is scoring the most points. The fight is over, and Gene Fullmer is the winner on a TKO. The referee mercifully stopped the fight. Although Carmen hadn't been knocked down, he had been taking a beating ever since round one. Carmen protested. Gene Fullmer, his strategy worked. He stayed outside, he jabbed, he moved, he was an elusive target. Carmen Basilio plowed straight forward, fought on a straight line, was easy to hit. Carmen was unable to get through the defensive tactics of Gene Fullmer, who covered up beautifully in close and who punched his way to the middleweight championship of the World National Boxing Association Middleweight Championship. Goes over to commiserate with poor Carmen, a popular but thoroughly beaten boy in the ring tonight. Angelo Dundee trying to console him. Of course, he's heartbroken, but there has to be a winner and a loser.
Gene Fullmer getting tremendous applause for a wonderful fight here in the Cow Palace of San Francisco. Gene, congratulations on winning the NBA version of the middleweight title.
Thank you.
Tell us about the fight.
It was a rough fight, Don. I think Carmen is, well, let's say it this way. I hope I never meet a rougher guy. If I do, it might be the other way, because he was in there all the way. He put the pressure on. We fought the fight the way the manager figured to fight it, so everything went along fine. I'd like to say I give not the success to myself, but for everybody that was backing me, for my manager in the camp. Conditions down here in San Francisco, Don, were the best that I've ever seen anywhere.
Gene,
everyone was wonderful.
A couple of questions about the fight. You planned a running fight from the beginning, apparently.
That's right, Don. We figured Basilio would be putting the pressure on, which he did. There's no use two bulls going in there and locking horns. I figured that I would be faster and could beat him to the punch, and it worked out that way. But take nothing away from Basilio. If I had fought him the way he wanted to fight, things might have been different.
Well, he hurt you a couple of times, didn't he, Gene?
Yes, he did. He's the toughest guy that I ever fought, bar none. He was in there, and I'd like to fight the guy again, give him another chance.
Well, that would be very nice. You'll never meet a gamer fighter, will you?
No, I never will, or a finer sport either.
Thank you very much, Gene. I'd like to ask your manager, Marv Jensen. Congratulations, Marv.
Thank you,
Although
Don.
Gene did the fighting, you
That's
must
right.
have done a lot of the planning, and
That's right.
you certainly planned a smart fight.
Well, if you plan it, you have to have someone to carry it out, and he carried it out to perfection. I think that, as Gene said, I feel like that Carmen deserves another chance. I think he's the greatest guy that Gene's ever fought. Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much, Marv, and good luck.
I'd like to say Fred Savage is presenting the championship belt, NBA championship belt after tonight.
Thank you very much, and good luck, Marv. And now, this is Don Gentry returning you back to NBC ringside.